Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today I kind of want to wrap up my trip that I took out to Vegas to capture SOE Live 2012, and what I learned there, my experience there, and just kind of go over the whole thing and share that information with you guys. Now, I have been showing interviews that I got with some of the Planetside devs, and I have another one coming up after this video, but I actually learned a lot more information while I was actually at the event. But let's start at the beginning of the trip. Now, my brother and I drove out to Vegas on Thursday, and Vegas is a funny city because it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's just got the biggest freaking buildings you can imagine with everything just lighting up and TVs everywhere, and people passed out on the walkways with beer cans next to them, and tons of billboards for prostitution and machine guns and magic shows and psychics, and it's an experience, I'll give it that. So we got into Vegas. It was the event was being held at Bally's Hotel. We checked into the room and immediately went down to the convention hall where we found Margaret Crone and Josh Sanchez setting up the live stream computers for the 3-day Planetside 2 tournament, which I actually competed in, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But right off the bat, I struck up a conversation with the two developers, and they were really open to talking about the game. They didn't feel like there was a lot of stuff that they had to hold back. I mean, sure, there's stuff that they're working on that they can't give us too much details on, but for the most part, in terms of like talking about the mechanics of the game, what they want to do with it, if they're even happy with the current state or if they really want to progress things, they're just really open to it, sharing information, and it was very easy to just talk to them, and I have that to say about all the devs that I actually talked to at the event. Then of course there was the keynote speech where John Smedley kind of entertained us for a while and ended up giving us the release date for Planetside 2 being November 20th. And immediately I started getting some tweets and stuff like that were like, too soon, it's not going to be done. And I'll admit there was a few mixed opinions among the devs. Some of them felt like maybe they could have used a little more time to get things under wraps, and some of them were very confident. Overall, I got a feeling of confidence from the whole development team that they were going to be ready to go on November 20th. So that's good. I hope it is, because I know launches are so important to the success of a game. You know, if you have a bad launch, coming back from that is very hard to do. So that's the last thing I want to see happen to Planetside 2, is them push the game out before it's ready. But it sounds like they feel pretty good about that release date. Now, we also got to see some footage of Amerish at the keynote, and then Higby and Tramel came on stage, entertained us for a bit, and then after the keynote speech, we went back to the convention hall and watched the first round of the the qualifying rounds for the tournament, and I actually ran into Hama from Planetside Universe. Now, if you guys don't know who this guy is, he's been running a Planetside fan site, the Planetside fan site, basically, the biggest one since the first game, and they just had their 10-year anniversary. Now, that is hardcore. That is old school. That is dedication right there. So this guy knows so much about Planetside, the lore, the history, everything that's ever happened to the game. And he runs a great website, one that I had actually spent quite a bit of time on before coming to this convention. So it was cool to talk to him about the game and sort of talk about he's got, he's very true to the old school game of Planetside, and I played the first game for about a year, stopped and went on to other things, and now I'm coming back into Planetside as sort of a new school player. So we got to talk about old school versus new school Planetside stuff, and it was a good time talking to him. The guy's awesome. You should definitely check out his website. I'll link that in the video description. Now, as the convention went on, I actually was able to pretty much talk to all the devs that I wanted to, well, at least most of them, and grab some interviews, many of which you've already seen. So that was awesome, just getting all that information. Even after the interviews, we just kept on talking about the game and mechanics and stuff like that. Then came time for the qualifying round of the tournament, and I played in that on Friday, and I got second place, and they picked the top 6 qualifiers, or the top 6 players to qualify for the final round. I was beat out by Delrith, who I actually met later in the convention, and that guy is an amazing player, and we weren't even close in score. So I was second place, and he was first with like many more kills than me. The guy plays NC, and he's a total beast, and I'm going to try and play a bit with him later, potentially do some cool live streaming stuff. Then on Saturday, we played in the finals, so it was the best 18 players from the 3 qualifying rounds of the tournament. And that was a long time. It was 3 hours of straight Planetside 2 gameplay, and it wasn't in any sort of private server, it was in the entire world. And so we had all these rules set up that we couldn't squad up with other people or get help from anybody else on the map, so we had to try and do it all on our own. And I think the biggest challenge of that tournament was literally just trying to stay in the action, because there was moments where it was like some of the other factions would have great battles at their disposal to get into, and then sometimes other factions wouldn't, or you'd have to go looking around the map. So a lot of the strategy was really just trying to stay in the action and keep the action consistent. Like, there were points in the tournament where my score per minute must have just been skyrocketing and then just plummeted as soon as the battle ended, or we lost a few key sunders or something like that. I even spent some time driving sunders back into the combat just so I could continuously spawn in and fight guys. And so after the 3 hours, the time was called. We all had to stand up, pull our hands away from the keyboard, no more gaming. They tallied up the scores. I ended up getting 6th place, and that seems about right for what at least I predicted. I either thought that nobody good was going to show up and I could just win the tournament based on just sheer twitch reflexes and some skill, or that there would be some really good players that were going to show up that had spent a ton of time in Planetside that I wouldn't have been able to catch up to even if I had practiced for weeks and weeks to come. And it was definitely the latter. There were some players in there that were so good. They knew exactly what configurations and vehicles to get and where to go, and they just dominated. Like, they kicked ass. So I was pretty happy with 6th place, actually, and the top 9 qualifiers actually got a reward. The top 3 got some pretty big rewards. I ended up coming away with a nice little $100 gift certificate, and I actually got to go up on stage and accept that from Higby and Trammell, so that was kind of cool. So all in all, the trip was a lot of fun. It really couldn't have gone better other than winning the tournament, but other than that, I made a huge amount of connections, got to talk to all the devs, talk about game design concepts. I will say my one reservation with the game is that I think it's still not friendly enough for the casual player, and I know Planetside is not necessarily geared towards the casual gamer, but I think for it to be a huge success, it needs a little bit more love for the casual gamer. And I've been kind of preaching this message the whole time along, and they've made a huge amount of progress, actually. There's been a lot of cool things implemented in the game. And if I can, I will sell a few more casual gaming concepts to the devs and hopefully get something implemented before the game launches, because I think it just needs the tiny little bit push more before this game is honestly like just about perfect. So I hope you guys enjoyed my little summary video on the trip, and it's my first time doing any sort of on the road video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to leave comments about what kind of stuff you'd like to see in the future regarding Planetside, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap signing off.